thank you for your patience. We're a little bit late to those of you that might be joining us live. It's Trina and Tristan.
Hello.
Here to talk to you today about spirit guides. Yes, good old spirit guides. I personally am incredibly passionate about spirit guides. I also do know though that sometimes when you use the word spirit guide, that some people go, whoa, that's too woohoo for me. That's the woohoo scale has gone woo all the way up here. Which is such a shame, because spirit guides are an incredible practical resource to support you with your health and your well-being and your sense of knowing, your sense of self.
Yeah.
You know, the way that you process the world, and yeah, such an incredible resource. So it's such a shame that people go, oh, woohoo, not interested in that woohoo. I'm a psychic spiritual healer who's been a clinician for over 20 years. I do not consider myself woohoo.
Good.
Is that because I've had to normalize all my experiences? Perhaps. It's a rhetorical question. I'm answering it. You don't have to answer that question. I should give Tristan a chance to speak.
I think this is a great... Trina and I, when we do these, we basically get to talk about the things we love to talk about a lot anyway.
Yeah.
And this is a topic we both really love. Yeah. I was very interested in this as a topic. I didn't come from their too woohoo side, because I was quite woohoo back in my day.
Tristan was quite woohoo when I first met him.
It was a lot of fun.
I went through my own woohoo stage.
That's the thing.
And what does woohoo mean? I mean, it's a shame that it's become such a derogatory
it is.
term.
I think it means exploring, really, a lot of the time.
Exactly. I think
seeking
it
truth.
Is exploring. And sometimes when people are, you know, in that stage where they're so interested in everything to do with spirit, that they've gone right up here with it. And, you know, like any pendulum, you know, that swings from side to side, there's a center.
There
is,
absolutely.
And coming back into a more balanced place.
Which is exactly why it's a topic we're both so passionate about.
Guides,
I think spirit guides, what I have learned, I know Trina has obviously an enormous amount of experience, which you'll talk about today. What I have found in my developing of relationship to spirit guides is they begin to bring you to that center point where you're still able to access all these amazing truths and grow and explore and learn, which is what many of us want to be doing.
Exactly.
But with some grounding and with
a
supporting healthy context and base to move from. Does that sound correct to you?
I totally and utterly agree. And one thing that I just wanted to kick off with saying about spirit guides is that they're actually real. We're going to talk about that a bit later. But spirit guide is not some concept. It's not just some kind of nice idea. Spirit guides are real. I say that because I literally see and talk to and feel spirit guides every single day in my clinical practice. When a person comes in to see me and they jump on the table and I know nothing about them, if they're an initial client or if they're a client I've been working with for a while, then their spirit guide will often come and talk to me and tell me what's going on for that person and give me an understanding of what's going on for that person physically, psychically, emotionally, spiritually, from a spirit-based perspective, from a bigger picture perspective, and the way that our physical, psychological, mental and emotional levels of self actually all connect together. And I know, like, slightly back to that topic of woohoo, like sometimes when people, I meet people and they say to me, what do you do for a job? And I say to them, I'm trained in traditional Chinese medicine. Because I'm avoiding actually saying to them I'm a psychic spiritual healer, because I don't want to have that conversation.
Sometimes you just want to be able to connect and relate in ordinary, very comfortable ways. And it is, I imagine, and even in my experience, I sometimes avoid talking about my place in all of this. It can change the way people treat you, or it can you can start finding you need to defend something about your beliefs.
Yeah, and I can't be bothered having that conversation sometimes where they're like, you know, I remember this guy once saying to me, "That is not true. It's impossible. Basically, what you do is bullshit and your world is bullshit." And I was like, "Ooh, that was quite harsh. I was at a party with friends, having a drink and just wanted to relax." And I'm like, oh God, I don't want to have an argument with this guy. But what it's like when someone says that to me as someone who's psychic, Tristan, someone as well who has extrasensory capacity, a lot of, you know, people that I know as well, a lot of my client population have extrasensory capacity. And it's like someone telling me that I don't have an arm. When I'm looking at this arm so I can see it, two, I'm using this arm.
It's doing things.
It's doing things for me every day. And I'm, you know, working with it every day, telling me that that arm isn't real. Well, it actually is. But I also know that if the person that's speaking to me is missing that arm, literally doesn't have that arm, then me telling them that it's real, it's going to be nonsense to them. And I don't care because I don't need to convert people. That doesn't matter. But if you're interested in finding out more about what a spirit guide can do for you, or building your relationship with spirit guides, then we encourage you to listen to the rest of this particular video today.
So when we were chatting about it, Trina, it was really, and this is why we love chatting together, because we come at these topics which we both are passionate about from slightly different experiences. You with 20 years as a professional, and then everything you had before that, and me as someone who's an aspiring professional in this area and learning. And you know, those two different angles. So I mentioned to you a whole bunch of things about my growing relationship with spirit guides, and you were then filling in like, oh, you know, some of your information. One of the things I said to you, and I'm assuming people watching may also be interested in developing relationship with spirit. And possibly have similar experiences to you or to me or both of us. One of the things I said to you was a pitfall that I struggled with very much several years ago was wanting to jump straight into communicating with my guides in words and conversations and what was really mostly intellectual ideas. And it took me quite a while, even when I began to try, to get comfortable with this ability to just feel and sensate my guidance and allow it to begin in a less intellectual way.
I think that what happens is that, look, sometimes people treat their guides like their parents.
Yes, absolutely.
Like they're an authority figure in their life. That's another reason that I think de-incentivize people from actually being interested in spirit guides or building a relationship with spirit guides. And that is that they feel like they assume that their spirit guide is going to be this authoritarian presence in their life that tells them what to do and what not to do and how to think and how to feel. That is not the role of a spirit guide. A spirit guide is kind of they're sort of like a guardian, okay? Which is, I guess, similar to a parent, isn't it? So as you're growing in your relationship to knowing yourself as a spirit, as you're growing in your relationship to connecting with and integrating all the qualities that are present. Hi, Bryony, I just saw you there. And hi.
Oh, the volume's very soft.
The volume's very soft. Thank you so much for letting us know.
Check
I just tried to...
little dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for letting us know.
Maybe move it from...
Is that better?
Let us know if that helps. Yeah, thank you.
Is there somebody out there who can let us know if that volume is better at all? If not, we might just have to ditch
maybe
these.
Yeah. We'll keep going a moment and see if we hear. Yep.
All right. So I've turned the volume up there. All right. So I was saying, gosh, I just completely lost us. That's all right.
Developing in relationship to spirit, not parentifying guidance.
As you're learning to, you know, there's a certain qualities that you start to integrate with yourself when you build a relationship with your spirit, like your psychic ability. You start to grow that. And so while you are sort of at the more infant stage or at the more toddler stage of actually growing that relationship, you know, and
Yes.
then your spirit guides are like a guardian in many ways that, you know how to be spirit because they're spirit guides. So they know, you know, how to coach you and guide you and mentor you in your relationship to the spirit and to your own spirit. But the other thing that I want to say about that is that, you know, so I notice as a clinician and a psychic spiritual healer, people will come and see me and they'll ask me a question, you know, for a reading.
Yep.
They'll ask me to ask spirit a question or their spirit guide a question for them. And when they do that, they receive an answer, but then they don't want that answer because they feel like they're being told what to do. And then they might sort of, you know, like argue against that answer or try and reinterpret that answer. So it's that kind of push and pull relationship with spirit guide that people have as well.
Yep.
So, you know, at the beginning, people want to just like, oh, my spirit guide's going to tell me how to live my life. They're going to give me a prescription for how to live my life so that my life is easier, so that I have no problems, so that my health is perfect and all that kind of stuff. But that's not their role. Their role is to gently inspire and support you to be the best that you can be and to start incorporating your own, thanks Ash, to start incorporating your own personal wisdom into the way that you live your life. Yeah. And so back to your, I'm so sorry.
No,
Trish,
that's fine. I love what you're saying.
Back to what you were saying, just to bring it all full circle, is that to build that relationship with your guide so that you can then start communicating more directly with them and getting this kind of answers to the kind of questions that you're looking for right at the beginning, and being able to actually hear them in a way where you're willing to listen to their perspective.
I think that is key. Yes.
That is very key. Then you need to build a relationship with their light. You need to build a relationship with actually just putting their light through your body.
Which is, I guess, that sensating.
Exactly. Yeah. And so sensating and feeling them. Yeah.
I think as you were saying that, it's maybe a simplistic way of understanding it, but it's like trying to have a conversation with someone when you haven't yet learnt the language.
Yes.
And if you've only learnt when you go overseas, the classic, you know, hello, hopefully, you know, hello, please, thank you. But you can't have a conversation about much more than very basic things.
Totally.
So you can't, you know, take time to learn the language.
Absolutely. And when you said that, it's like trying to communicate with somebody and you haven't even learnt that language. My spirit guide started clapping.
Good way of...
They were like, yes, he's onto it, because spirit guides communicate with light.
Yes.
Okay? Light is a very refined form of energy. It is the energy that is closest to spirit, source, whatever word that you want to use there. And so being able to open your body and your being to receive light from source and from your spirit guide, so that you can receive the message and then interpret that message, i.e. that language of light. It takes time. I have a course that I've written specifically for that. It's a 5-week course, and it's for people who are wanting to take things to that next level, actually, who are wanting to communicate with their spirit guide.
So this is probably for people who have already some form of relationship with their spirit guide. They've been introduced to their spirit guide, or for themselves have met their spirit guide.
Yeah.
And this feeds into actually something else while you're talking about your course and just generally, I think, your profession, that I have relied on you for is like, I called you the other day like a tuning fork.
Yeah.
Because...
I'm a tuning
or like a touchstone. Again, as someone who's, you know, working on my relationship to my spirit guides and improving in it and understanding that now and really on that journey. But there was a time, and it's ongoing, but certainly there was a time where I tended to fill in a lot of the blanks because I'd be asking a question and not getting an answer, or not being able to receive an answer, so I'd start to put in meanings.
Yes.
Or
that's so
make
common.
assumptions about what the answers mean, because when you're given an answer from spirit, when you do receive that, that is what you've received, and you can then run off with it and recreate. I think you said this, recreate meaning, but that is no longer the meaning. And so I can come to you. In my case, I'm very lucky to see you as a client. I can come to you and receive clarification. Am I tuning in correctly to spirit? Are things like my fears or my bias or my desires getting in the way? And you have that skill set because you've refined that for a long time. So this course is kind of doing that, is that?
Well, this course is actually, it in some ways, it's actually a step, and that, I want to address a couple of things about what you've said there. And I might do that first, and then I'll come back to the course.
Sure.
So first of all, because the intention of this isn't just to
sell the course,
tell the course, but is to just give you some really decent information about spirit guides. So Tristan, I remember Tristan was you were actually saying to me, is that should I be doing that? Is that kind of like, I feel a bit, like I'm using you as a tuning fork. And I was saying to Tristan that is perfectly understandable, and it's perfectly fine, because I have over 20 years experience of communicating with spirit.
Yeah.
And I have a few tricks up my sleeve.
Just one or two up there.
And about being able to know what is spirit and what isn't spirit. What is actually coming to you from the light, and what is actually coming to you from your stuff. And your patterning and your patterns and what you're sort of like chucking in and filling the space with.
Yeah.
And so you'll notice, Tristan, that when you come to me and you ask me questions now, because we've been working together for a little while, is that I don't just immediately tune in and go, is that right, spirit guides? Has Tristan got that right?
Yeah.
I actually make you go and ask the questions first.
Yeah.
And I get you to... I hold the space around you. I hold a strengthened space around you so that the light is stronger around you than what you would be able to just go and hold by yourself just because of my own experience. And then you're able to ask the question yourself, and then you often notice, you already answer the question most of the time.
Yeah.
And then I just gently guide you within that. And that is my role as a mentor.
Yes.
The thing is to actually believe what you are receiving from spirit takes time to build that up. For me, over 20 years of experience and working with spirit day in and day out, I get confirmation all the time. So I had a couple of new clients this week. They come in, I know nothing about them. They get up on the table, I download a whole bunch of information about them. They're like, oh my God, those are the exact things that have been troubling me and that I've been wanting to work with.
Yes.
And so I get that instant confirmation, right? That and you start to feel which bits are actually, well, different people have different skill sets, to be honest. Some people are more claircognizant. They receive the light from spirit in a package of knowing, cognizance, knowing. They just know it's from spirit.
Yep.
Okay? They know which bits are and they know which bits aren't. And they're able and humble enough, you've got to have a certain level of humility as well, to be able to filter which bits are from spirit and which bits they're filling in themselves. Okay? So some people do that cognizantly. I think I just made that word up. Some people do that with clairsentience rather than saying clairsentiently. I'm really finding it hard not to want to say that though. Some people do it with clairsentience, sensing, feeling. They feel it through their whole body.
Yep.
And it's so strong. You know which bits are spirit and which bits aren't. Some people do it clairaudience, where spirit, they hear words. Okay, and some people do it did I say clairvoyance? No, clairvoyance, which is visually.
Yep.
And some people, so they receive mostly in images.
Yep.
And some people do it in the smell way. where they receive
That one,
smells.
that Claire, yes.
Some people, that Claire. There's a few Claires. Welcome to all the Claires out there. And I can help you work out which of those Claires you mainly are.
Sure.
Okay?
Yes.
And then you start working from your strength. And you work from your strength and you build outwards. For me nowadays, I use all of them.
Yeah.
It all comes together in one jigsaw puzzle.
Yes.
And depending on the best and most efficient way for spirit to communicate information to me is how the mixture of clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance and stuff that comes through. So I can definitely help people with that. And then just quickly back to that course.
Yes.
So the course itself, in terms of, I call it a crash course in communicating with spirit, is I teach you there's one introduction and 4 practice lessons. 4 practical lessons. The first is being able to actually connect into your higher self enough, because your higher self acts as a filter.
Yep.
Okay, in being able to work out what is you talking and what is spirit talking.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one is, I can't remember, it just jumped out of my mind.
That's all right.
And then the third one is how to actually receive light. Okay, I give you a practical, not skill, it's
Technique.
Technique,
yeah.
Task, to actually receive the light in the full message. And then the final practice class is where I give you another practical tool that helps you to be able to interpret the meaning in the way that spirit wants you to interpret it, not in the way that you want to interpret it. That's the hard bit. That's harder. But yeah. So anyway.
Before we move on from that one, I'll just, because I'm sure a lot of people who've done your previous courses may end up watching this. Would you like expressions of interest on that course?
Yeah, sure. I haven't set up an expressions of interest page yet. So what you just need to do is email me. It's Trina Lucas at spirit-based-therapies.com. I will put that up
in our
descriptor
later.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, in amongst what you were saying there, kind of back to that language idea again, another pitfall that I experienced and try to be much more careful and mindful of now is when you know you have a limited capacity to communicate, you wouldn't go into deeply sophisticated and very important topics.
Yeah.
So, I would be, and I still would not go in when I'm connected with my guides. I keep to very simple, normally yeses and nos and confirmations. And if I go in about a topic like something that means a lot to me in my life, like I'm really invested in an answer and it's a very sophisticated and nuanced experience, it's not helpful for me. And I mean appropriate as in for myself, not from an outside judgment, but it's not productive for me to go in with something very difficult and very personal when I don't have that depth of skill set to handle that. Does that?
Yeah, and look, I think that that's right, and that's one of the things that the course teaches you, but is to be able to hold the space right so that you can receive what you need to receive when you're communicating with spirit. But I think also that it is hard to ask questions about yourself and not have your own stuff get in the way. It's not impossible though.
Yeah.
And I have some tricks up my sleeve to teach people how to do that. But there's also a more entry-level way into relating to spirit as well. And that is, I can't emphasize enough how helpful it is to know your spirit guide's name, to know the color of your spirit guide, and to have an understanding of what kind of image they present as well. Because color is a vibration. And so what we're talking, and a name is a vibration as well. You say a name, it produces a vibration. That's how we literally hear, is through vibrations in our ear. And we feel light through vibrations in our body as well. So when you know the color of your spirit guide and you know their name, then you can be saying that name and you can be imagining that color moving through your body. And what it does is it helps you create the vibrational space for you to be able to just feel and connect with that presence of your spirit guide a little bit more strongly?
My experience of that is that it made such a big difference when you introduced me to my guide Marcello, knowing that name, using that name regularly in my meditation, knowing the color, and particularly with my guide, another thing that really helped me was Marcello has these great wings that and there are times where if I'm really feeling like I need support, I just bring this image in of Marcello bringing their wings around me, and it helps me sensate and really embody that support. And I sometimes can be quite cruel to myself when I'm finding things difficult, and I want to deny myself the right to help. So this is a way that I can start to soften that and let myself. So I think you're right. I just want to back that up with the experience I've had. Knowing those three things, a color, a name, and some imagery, has made an enormous difference to tangibly feeling what it is like to have my guides support in my body.
Yes. And one thing, I just want to ask you some questions about that, actually.
Yeah.
Another thing that I want to say is about, being able to work out, just to give you guys a nice little practical thing that you can do off the bat yourself, is journaling when it comes to creating a relationship with your spirit guide. So what is required is to start getting a sense of when it is your spirit guide and when it isn't your spirit guide. Okay.
Yes.
So to use an analogy, sometimes you have a dream, and some people have very prophetic dreams. You might have a dream and there are components of it that you just know are really, really important.
Yes.
That have a significant message in them, and that message is real and true. And then there'll be other components of that dream that is just, I call it noise, where you're just sort of processing your subconscious and your unconscious.
All the stuff.
Yeah, and you're working through emotions and stuff like that. Very important as well. But not a prophetic message, not a message from, your higher self or your greater self.
Yes.
And so, and you kind of just sort of know that. Well, with journaling, what you can do is you can start a conversation. And you can start saying to you might ask your spirit guide, do I really need to move house? All right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, there's something going on in your house and you're wondering whether or not moving house is going to fix the problem, or whether you're just going to move into another house and have exactly the same issue turn up. And so you start journaling that, and just do it like brainstorming. Really give yourself permission to unconditionally let whatever words start popping into your head to come through, and write it down. And if nothing comes into your head, write nothing as well, and then something will. And then of what comes into you is, I'm so freaking angry, then write that, I'm so freaking angry down, and let it come through. And you'll start to feel when some bits of that, what you're writing is guidance.
Yes.
And you'll feel when some bits of that are your emotions, some bits are of your thoughts, some bits are other things. And and the more you do that, the more you'll start to notice when it is your guide. And you will start to build a relationship with your clairvoyance, your clairaudience, or whatever.
It can also just in a really sensible, that is very sensible, but in another really applied way with that same thing, it just helps you remember, because I will have a conversation with my guides and make, discoveries or something. And then in a week or two's time, if I haven't written it down, I'll trivialize it or dismiss it or forget it. And if I have things written down, sometimes like if I've had a session with you, I might go back and go through, because I do a lot of journaling. I might, have had a session with Trina and clarified some stuff. And then I'll go back home and go through these notes, and I'll be like, I was writing about that thing. I did say that. And then I'll circle these things, and it helps me start to see within that flow of thoughts, emotions, feelings, where there's some guidance coming through, or where there's important feelings coming through. So it just also helps you kind of track it.
Yes, and it's also sometimes you've got to clear the feeling space so that your guide can come through. Because sometimes what people are mistaking for guidance is their feelings. And we all do it all the time. And so you've got to sort of, if you can empty out that feeling space a little bit more, then that helps as well.
Another thing in this area of just writing lots of things down and not all of it being guidance, for years I was paralyzed by the fear of getting it wrong. Oh my gosh, it was
Can't we all relate to that?
such a big one for me. I was like, I still kind of tried, but there was this paralyzing fear in me that I was going to try and reach my guides and get it wrong. And I was embarrassed about that. And horrified about that. Particularly embarrassed was one that I had, actually. How embarrassing to get, you know, my guides will be up there going, you idiot, you didn't hear, you know, like.
Guides would never speak like that.
So that fear took a long time for me to.
I get it. I really do. I think it's really relatable, Tris. And, you know, I feel that way too sometimes. You know, sometimes I go into a session, I'm like, oh my God, this person's just going to think I'm a nutbag. And everything that comes out, they're just going to go, what? And it just doesn't happen. You can't get it wrong because it's not a matter of wrong or right. It's just a matter of doing and discovering.
And returning to that intention of if you you know, authentically you're holding, this is what I'm working on, I'm learning to connect to my guidance, leads me on to another point that we were discussing is your guides are active. They're beings. Totally beings.
My spirit guide, come back to that writing down point. My spirit guide will often they were doing it to me on Saturday. They were saying, we'd like to talk to you. And I'm like, I'm busy. I've got friends coming over for lunch and I'm a little bit anxious. But a really busy week at work and my energy is like, woo, up here. We'd like to speak to you, Trina. I'm busy. So they like tap me on the shoulder. They tap me on this shoulder a lot. And sometimes energies that aren't my guide try and replicate that.
Yeah, right.
But I can
You've
feel it, right? I can, nah, you're not my guide. You feel different. So you're not my guide. But anyway, so they'll go da, 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 da. And so on Saturday it was like, Trina, we just want to let you know that the next 12 hours or so are going to be quite challenging for you.
Right.
With some changes taking place inside of you that we're going to support you through.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, I'm having my friends over for lunch.
Why now? Why now?
But because they told me that, it was. And I write it in these moments. They want me to write it down because they don't want me to just kind of go, oh yeah, whatever. They want me to go in the next 12 hours. It's going to be more. So I really like drink that in and go, okay, yep, I got that. And then I step up and I support myself through those next 12 hours. And so do they. And I let them in there to support me. I don't hold them in the fringes like I was when I was like, I don't want to hear what you're saying, guys. I'm busy.
I imagine also in writing it down, just reiterating what I was saying, if you needed to, during those 12 hours, you could go back to that bit of paper and go, I'm not crazy. I wrote this down.
Absolutely.
You know?
So that if I start feeling a bit discombobulated and I start the self-blame game or the I'm shit game or the I just can't handle life game, then I can reorientate myself back to a deeper knowing of there's something bigger going on and that I'll come out the other side of it because I always do. And I come out the other side of it better in some way.
So with spirit guides being real, that's one that I am still learning about. Aren't we all? And I remember what my guide actually said to me in a session a while ago with you. Spirit guides are real, Tristan. And it's been on my mind ever since. So thank you, Marcello. And what I'm sure there was many things Marcello was saying, but one thing that I've thought about since that time is I remember I used to sit down to meditate and feel like if I didn't imagine my guide and create the whole story and do all the work, like my intellect and my whole body was trying to create the experience because I don't think I had any faith at that time that actually genuinely I was going to receive as well, that it wasn't just me. If I created space, it would come. I didn't need to create the reality. And then you were saying to me some of the risks around if you try doing that too much.
Absolutely. You know, like being able to have that faith is really, really important. When we're connecting with spirit, and you're connecting with your spirit guide as well, holding an unconditional space is key, right? So I was talking about this with a client last week, a dear client of mine, and that client was saying that they're not very well guided. And I was just like, oh, that's so not true. You are really, really good at being guided.
Yeah.
However, you don't have much faith in your ability to be guided.
Yes.
And so what happens is that the guidance that's coming through to you, this is with this particular client, you're just dismissing it outright before it even has a chance to make its way into your being. You're like, no, because you don't believe that you can
have that capacity.
Capacity. And so what that person, I was noticing that person is doing, is that they're sitting down and they're like, okay, I'm going to communicate with I'm going to, have a experience of my guide, and holding that unconditional space and waiting for it to turn up. You support that. First of all, I must say that you say your guide's name, you envisage your guide's color, and in my Meet Your Spirit Guide workshop, I actually teach you a technique that is specific to you to bring your guide's light into your body.
And so this is, just quickly, I'll jump in, different than the previous workshop you mentioned. This is a one-off meeting.
Yeah. Meet Your Spirit Guide workshop. I'm running one in February, but it just sold out. But I'll put another one up soon. But I teach a particular technique for putting your light through you. So say you bring it up, you put it in, you imagine a dot in the middle of your heart first, and then you expand it from there. So you're doing those three things, right? Key things to help bridge the gap so that you can connect into the presence of your spirit guide more quickly, right? So you do those things, and then you see what happens.
Yes.
Right? But what people do is they're like, oh, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to fail. It's not going to work. And so they jump in and they start filling the space.
Yeah.
And then they start imagining what their guide might want them to do. All that kind of stuff.
All the ways that it could then go.
Yeah. And that's what was happening with this particular client. I could see that they were going in and filling the space. And then their guide is talking to them here, for instance, but they've moved all the way over here. So they're not even present to the place in which that light from their guide and that communication and that connection is coming through.
Yes.
So the other thing about holding an unconditional space is that, if I'm asking something like, an example that just popped into my head is my dog. My dog wet the bed the other night, poor little thing.
Poor you.
And poor me. I know I had to change my sheets in the middle of the night. And anyway, so I was asking my guides, does my dog, one, do I need to take my dog to the vet? Two, should I just do a healing on her? Or three, does she have a urinary tract infection? So when I ask that question and then I have to let any answer go. Any of those ideas.
Because part of you is like, you know what, I think she might need to go to the vet because I noticed blah, blah, blah the other day. Yeah.
Part of me is already invested in an answer.
Yeah.
And so I've got to completely let all that go. That takes practice.
Yes.
My friends, it takes practice, but you can achieve it. That's what my crash course in communicating with Spirit Guide supports you to do. But I call it a crash course because I might teach you those tools and those techniques, but you're going to need mentoring afterwards.
Well, like I
most
said,
likely.
with that tuning the way I will, use my sessions with you at times to clarify and make sure that I am on the right track, because I'm still learning.
Because having the confidence to truly believe which bits are right and which bits aren't takes time to build, and so being mentored in that is great. And so what I'm going to look at setting up is like some kind of like a membership thing or something where we can come together and I can support you all a couple of times a month to be tuning into spirit and to be actively communicating and just, you know, tweak you all to into your own skill set, because everyone's
great
skill set
I'm
is...
there, so please, if you're there as well, let us know, because I want this to happen.
And tweak you into your own skill set, because everyone's skill set is unique. My way is not your ways.
Sure.
Tristan's way
Yeah.
is not your way.
Yeah.
Not your way. Tristan's way is not my way. Everyone's way is unique.
You said something really wonderful, and I'm gonna massacre it. Do you want to say it? Because you'll say it better than I will. So if you now remember.
Oh, if I can remember. Tristan and I were talking about this the other day, and I was saying that if you're not holding an unconditional space for your guide to fill it with the light of communication and for you to receive the answer that your guide is trying to get through to you, right? Then you are not being guided, you are guiding.
Which is it's just an interesting perspective thing there. Well, a difference in function, but I just thought it was really good that if you're filling the space, you're filling the role that you're actually ironically asking your guide to fit.
Yeah. And that makes me think of, just quickly, like sometimes a person will come in to see me as a client and I see their guide sort of like behind them, and their guide is doing, you know, sometimes we communicate with gestures.
Yes.
So their guide is going like this.
Yeah.
Or like, and they're not because they necessarily feel that way, but
no, as a
I
communication.
can immediately know when they're doing that what they're communicating to me is they're asking me for help. I'm trying to get in there, but I can't because they keep making assumptions, or they keep diving off in another direction. Or they take a piece of the information, right?
And run with it.
But a very small fragment of the information, instead of waiting for the totality of the communication to arrive inside of them.
Yeah, there's so much to it. It's so much to develop in this area, isn't it? The patience and the trust.
Patience, trust, knowing of self. You know, one of the most intrinsic offerings that your guide has for you is developing your self-knowing. And every person is different. There is no prescription for life. People often want to go to a psychic for a prescription for life.
Yeah.
To tell them what they need to do. But the thing is, the more that you're able to stay connected to the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
To the moment that you are actually because that's where life is. Not out here in the future, not in the past, it's right now. The more you are connected into this now moment, the more that you can access the totality of self. And the more that the more likely you are to be listening to your wisdom, and then making choices that bring you to the place that you know that you want to reach in the future.
Yes.
And spirit guides help you occupy yourself. They help you to know your own idiosyncrasies, your own quirks. I was talking to a client the other day where she was shamed a lot as a child for being sensitive, really.
Yeah.
And for being jealous. She wasn't not jealous, needy. She was legitimately in need of support from her parents that she wasn't getting.
Yeah.
Right? But she was shamed for being needy. And so what has happened for her, she was saying to me that she did my Meet Your Spirit Guide course, and she's also been, and since then things really shifted from her, because she left that course with her guide's name, the knowing of the color of the guide, and how to put her guide's light through her.
Yeah.
And she's worked with that every single day.
Yeah.
Since the middle of last year.
Yeah.
And she said her knowing of self has grown so exponentially that when she is in a situation that she finds difficult or challenging, she can access that knowing, and that knowing can support her to move through. So if her, for instance, was to have, just an example, have her mother interact with her in a way, or a potential partner tell her that she's needy and try and shame her,
now has
gaslight her for that,
yes,
then she's like, she has this intrinsic knowing inside of herself that says, no, I am in a legitimate place with my need to trust relationships. That part of me is a wonderful part of me. I will not be shamed in it, and I can hold myself through that and not be completely thrown off and discombobulated by that other person. When I was growing up, I felt like I was often told that I was too dramatic. Now I
not imagine why, Trina.
Can't relate to that at all, can you, Tristan?
No, personally no.
I really enjoy that part of myself. I've integrated that, and part of that has been my guide.
Yeah.
Because your guide knows who and what you intrinsically are as a soul and a spirit, and helps you build a relationship with that intrinsic self, that higher self, that spirit and soul self, so that part of yourself is expressing itself through your life, and it makes you actually feel more joyful.
Yeah.
You like yourself more, you love yourself more, you believe in yourself more.
It's so true. Absolutely.
Because I'm not just trying to.
No. I'd written down a couple of things, and it leads me to the last thing I actually want to say. So it's a really nice segue there. Was just, I think I want you to speak quickly at the end about this underlies healing tool our guides are, and the 4 points you have on that. The last thing I really wanted to say feeds on from what Trina was just saying so nicely, is I have found through my years of developing with my guides that they are deeply comforting.
Oh, yeah.
And I want those words to mean as much as they possibly could. Deeply comforting.
Deeply.
They've
your whole body just goes,
they've helped me recontextualize my, like you were just saying, giving examples, I'll recontextualize struggles and reframe things so that you feel much more safe, much more comfortable, just much more sane and whole. I think, like many of us, there's times where I just feel like I'm a broken person. We all have moments like that. And when I turn to my guides, and it takes time, and some of these journeys are still going, and I'm talking years for some of these things. But my guides have over time begun to help me tell my story inside myself differently.
Yeah.
And experience myself differently, which I think is what you were just giving examples of.
I couldn't have said it more beautifully myself. I'm going to write that down. Tell my story inside of myself differently.
We'll put it on a t-shirt. Which is because
yeah, that's we've got to get the font right.
Yes, it's a lot to put on. Maybe it needs, I don't know, a jumper or something with more room. Because they're an underutilized healing tool, because I want you to quickly finish us up by telling us, do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know exactly what you're talking about. And what I'm going to suggest we do is we're going to roll that in to our next
gorgeous, I love that
discussion.
Thank you.
Where we're going to come back and we're going to talk to you about how to tell your story inside of yourself differently.
Yeah.
With the support of your spirit guide.
Sounds good. I love that.
Yeah, and we will explain to you 4 specific ways in which your guides help you do that.
So we'll do that soon, which also means you have an opportunity between now and then. If you watch us and have any questions, we can also
write them down.
Talk to those. So shoot us a message on here or however.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or email. Yep. And the other thing that I wanted to say that is, I'm just going to walk off screen for a sec and grab this.
Ah, yes, this is good.
I actually, so first of all, I have a lot of really good free self-healing resources.
Yes.
I have an Archangel Healing group where you get to be guided in meditation and in wisdom in regards to your connection with spirit. Hey, Wendy, could you read Wendy's message?
Yeah.
I just thank you. And And that is a massive amount of my expertise and time that I put into that group for free. You can access that whenever you like.
It's great. It's great.
I have healing meditations on my website. You can sign up to my website and there is an area there with healing meditations. There's one that is specifically, I'm pointing at you now with my pen, that is specifically, exactly, really, really good for connecting to your spirit guide, completely and utterly free. It's called the Clearing and Protection Meditation. So there's those. There is an introductory Meet Your Spirit Guide workshop that I run periodically. There's another one that's a step up from that I'm going to start running.
Yep.
And that is one that teaches you a few tricks in regards to starting off basically with some communication stuff. And then there's the third one that's a little bit more advanced for people, the crash course in communication. If you're interested in those, let me know. Spirit Essence Drops. I make Spirit Essence Drops, whereby I put, for instance, your spirit guide's light into these drops, and then I love my language today. You just drop them like this, and what that does is that gives a therapeutic amount of light from your spirit guide. It delivers it into your body so that you're starting to build that relationship with your spirit guide's light from the inside out. It is an excellent adjunct to anything that you might be doing self-healing wise, and in regards to building your internal relationship to your deeper
Especially,
knowing of self.
I think one thing that's helped me with is I'm pretty good with my meditation. I've got over the years better at that. But if you're someone, and I'm still in this zone, if you're someone who struggles with like finding the time and routine, you can't replace, I'm sure you're not saying you could, you know, what you'll get from meditation. But if you're someone who's struggling to maybe bring the practice in with time, if you're time poor or something, this could be a nice way of beginning to support you in this journey and create space that you'll begin to prioritize the stuff more if you're like me and you want to, but you just don't seem to manage to all the time.
Yeah. And so like a 50 ml bottle like this is $80. But that can last you up to a month depending on the dosage. So if it lasts you a month, that's $20 a month for Spirit Guide Light delivered into your body. It's pretty good. And to anybody who would like to try the Spirit Essence Drops who hasn't tried them before, then within the next, if you watch this video and you message me, send me an email, then I'll give you a 10% discount on Spirit Guide Drops. I'm going to drop the finger now. And getting all at ya, and I'm going to drive that down.
Wendy was just saying that she relates to the fear of getting it wrong and also not feeling worthy of receiving guidance. I'm guessing probably a lot of us.
That's an excellent one, Wendy, feeling worthy of receiving guidance, because, you know, Wendy's one of those ones that's actually really bloody good at it. And
she's super keen for the course.
Yeah, great. And but the thing is, she's super good at it. But that sense of feeling worthy and that sense of being able to believe yourself and all that kind of stuff is a challenge.
You need support with those things.
Yeah, support with those things. And this is one way that you can support yourself with that. And doing the meditations as well, that free stuff. And we'll speak a bit more about it next time we catch up on here. All right?
Thank you very much, everyone. Great topic.
Thanks for listening. Yeah. If you have any particular topics you'd like us to talk about, then let us know.
Absolutely.
Our intention, I think, is to talk about it, try and talk about these things from a personal experience perspective. Yeah. Yeah.
Particularly with, again, that you have this wealth of experience and I'm someone who's very much on the learning side. So I always have lots of questions and trying to understand things, and Trina has so much knowledge that it helps, I think, the two of us bringing together these different perspectives.
Absolutely. Yeah. We think we work well together.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
We'll see you next time.
Bye for now. Bye. Thanks, Wendy.